just for the people who aren't familiar with who's up here at the head table, we've got Harvey Fine, we've got Clem Labine and his lovely wife Barbara here at the end.
No wonder. Yeah.
Cute couple.
That's funny.
I want to just take a couple of minutes and explain to the audience here. There's been some changes on the board, and when you hear the word change, you always think of something negative. It's not negative. To see what kind of a record Clem put together. And I think when you hear some of the things that he was involved in, plus I'm sure when he gets into some of his stories, you're going to find it quite interesting. He did come up with the old Brooklyn Dodgers, 1950. He was with them until 1957 when the team moved west. But in 1955, when the Dodgers beat the Yankees, Jeff, you're out of order. Clem that year, in 1955, had a 13-5 record. He also was 3 for 31 with a bat. The interesting point here is the 3 hits that he got were all home runs. He spent time with the LA Dodgers, Detroit Tigers, Pittsburgh, and then the New York Mets. He played in 5 World Series. 3 of those 5 were winners. 55 Brooklyn, 59 LA, 1960 Pittsburgh. 13 years in the majors. I'm sure with all of those, with that kind of a background, he's going to have some interesting stories here for us tonight. Clem, welcome.
See the service you get? Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, can you still see me? Can you still see me? Well, listen.
Get the podium down.
Yeah. You look a lot better.
We also had Casey Singer. Now that's the real riot, if you want to do that. We fell asleep most of the time, about the 3rd inning. Yeah, this was during spring training, of course. But he had certain cardinal rules. We were in St. Petersburg, and we all were staying at the inn itself. And he would say, fellas, you want to have a beer or anything else, you can have a beer, but you can't have it here. Go some other place. So I had a catcher for a roommate. His name's Ginsberg. He was from the Tigers, and we've been friends, so I was rooming with him. So we were probably 2 of the most renowned as far as age was concerned and as far as years spent playing. So he was using both of us, me for the coach, the pitchers, and Joe Ginsberg to do the catchers. And so we did it for a while because, you know, it was pretty well. We got off early and they went to play ball games, and we'd take the kids out, 1 o'clock, go play golf. Really a good spring training. Of course, you're not pitching any games or catching any games out. But the best one was we went out one day and we played 9 holes. And we came back, and 6 o'clock was the deadline as far as getting your dinner was concerned. And we got there just a little bit late. And Casey and his wife would always sit with all the reporters. And he'd go over the day and everything else and then tell most of his stories too, and he had many to tell. But as he had said, nobody drinks in this place. So we're sitting there, and all of a sudden the girl came up to us and said, Mr. Sanger would like to know if you'd like to have a drink. So Joe looked at me, I looked at Joe. I said, should we have a drink? Hey, he wants us to, we'll have one. So we ordered a beer. We got a beer, we drank our beer, we had our dinner, we left. We got to the clubhouse the next day about 8 o'clock, and Casey says, nobody goes out before 9 o'clock, I want to talk to everybody. So we all come in, sit down, and everything else. Says, well, we had a pretty bad thing happen yesterday. So we had 2 fellas come in and they drank in that damn dining room. They were told not to drink. And it's going to cost them $50 a piece. So Joe and I are there, and we're waiting, everybody's leaving. We go over and say, Casey, you sent the drink over. He says, then why did you accept it? So it cost us $50 each. But Zimmer, now Zimmer was on our club at that time. And I know you all know Zimmer by now. He's written enough books, he's made more money than you ever thought of. But he's the nicest guy in the world, seriously. A good story about Zim, I think, is Zim was hurt very badly in the minor leagues. He was hit in the head, and he had a plastic plate put into his head. And there was this serious thought that he might lose his life at that time. And you have to understand this, Zimmer. Now, he was a little guy at that time. He was weighed about 5'8", 5'9", I would say. But he probably weighed 165. They had him throwing on like you couldn't believe. But we had Pee Wee Reese at shortstop. So it's pretty hard for him to take over. But anyhow, we were playing, I think it was 1954. And Zim was playing third base at that time. And he came to the plate. And he got beamed again. And I'll never forget because he got hit right there. And we said, oh my God, this is the end for Zim, no matter what happens. So they took him to the hospital and everything else. Well, Johnny Potters and I were, Johnny was his roommate at that time. Johnny became my roommate after. But John and I said, let's go to the hospital and see what's happening as far as Zim is concerned. So we get there, and here we walk in, and there's Zim on the bed, and he's got these cement blocks blocking off his cheeks so that he can't move at all. So he's unstable as far as is concerned in the bed. He's stable, I should say. But anyhow, as we walk in and everything else, how are you doing? And he's talking, he says, well, he says, I think I got one of these things, redness or something, or something's wrong with my eye, and they don't want me to move or anything else. He says, but hey, point as father is, point, give me the Bible. He wants to get the Bible. So he goes over there and he comes over, he says, hold it up here so I can look. He says, turn the page. Who's running in the third race? They love the horses, those two. Well, what you can see is that baseball wasn't that tough, like it or not. You've got my history as far as teams are concerned and everything else. I can talk a lot about the Dodgers because I truly have to say I think it was one of the finest organizations that I ever played with. I think we were a teaching organization. And I think, you know, everybody, not all of you, most of you are young, but Branch Rickey was our general manager and president at one time. And this is not the nicest guy in the world to know. He's very cheap with the dollar, and he'd do anything to make sure you didn't get much. But he knew more about baseball than anyone I ever knew. And he knew how to organize it and organize the players. And he could talk about pitching as well as anyone I ever heard and give you really a history of what you should be as a pitcher. And, you know, nothing's a mistake about playing baseball. The greatest mistake is that people think it's a mistake. It's not. You learn your profession. And you have to understand that during my day, and I'm talking about now the mid-40s, because I was in the service and then I got out of service and I went to the minor leagues. But we had, St. Louis had 28 minor league teams. And we, the Dodgers, had 25 or 26, I'm not sure. Now that's just two clubs. You used to go to spring training, you have 225 pitchers. Think you've got a chance to make a team? That's pretty tough. But it's what it is with everybody. Every time you walk out there, you see somebody that looks much better than you do, or seems that he can do more than you can. And I guess sticking to it is the biggest thing that ever happened in baseball. You really have to want. You want to have what you're looking for. And what it is everybody wants to play in the big leagues. It's the only place to play. It's the only place where, you know, money is a very important thing for all people. You're married, you need money. But in our days, it was not the fact of money, because we didn't get a lot of money, whether we liked it or not. And many people don't understand what the reserve clause was all about. But the reserve clause was one that predicated the fact that you cannot leave that team unless they let you go. So players had an option on you every year. So if I won 24 games, And I went up to them and I said, well, I want a $2,000, $2,500 raise. And they'd say, no. Now, what am I going to do? I can't do anything about it. I can't go anyplace. And you'd be dead in there. And they have such little things that they would do. They would call you up, for instance. They call you up around, just before Thanksgiving. Spring training starts in a couple of months and everything else. First thing they'd say, you need some money. You haven't signed your contract yet. You need some money. Christmas is coming, you know, need somebody kid, $1,000, $1,500, and you know, you might fall for it. But there you are, you're hooked. You haven't even signed your contract yet. You already owe them money. Well, you can't do that today, that's collusion. But I am going to tell you these people were so wise. And Branch Rickey was the best. He wanted you all married. Everybody should be married and have a family. Something happened to your family, he didn't give you any money though. He didn't help you out. That's our friend, I'll tell you. But the people I played with were the most, I think the era that I played in was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to baseball. Maybe television isn't the greatest thing that ever happened. Television was one of them, but Jackie Robinson was another. And a lot of people really don't understand Jackie Robinson. They don't know the full intent of what he was and what he wanted to do in his life. He was not just a ball player. He was not just a good athlete. He had a code with what he wanted to do for the people that he associated with, which were at that time the Negroes. And he was forceful. He had opinions. He had the right opinions. But he's the greatest guy I ever saw. When somebody tried to hurt him, how he related to it. And he showed us what it's all about after he had a few years. They didn't do it anymore because he'd do it back. And, you know, there are a lot of guys, I think of, there's a pitcher named Magley, Sal Magley. He later became a Dodger. But he loved to, you know, kind of give you a little brushback. We'll talk about brushbacks too, actually. But anyhow, it's, all I can remember, Jackie would do one thing. You want to throw at me, go right ahead. But he's going to bunt that ball down that first baseline. You got to cover him. If you've got to cover him, be careful. And he would throw at Jackie and start running down, and then he'd quit. And there Jackie would take either the second baseman out or at first baseman, where it was, and he'd take him out. But you know, people couldn't understand that. It was dirty play. But nobody ever said it was dirty play when it was happening to him. So he had a perfect run. And he was a wonderful athlete. I'm going to tell you, you ever saw, you don't see too many people that hit down on the ball today. But he and Carl Furlow were the greatest guys I ever saw, which had swings that weren't lever swings, they weren't uppercut, they went down. And they got backspin on the ball. So they hit very hard balls when they hit at you. But it was just, I loved to go to the ballpark early to watch Jackie hit because I could learn a lot from him. One of my great thrills. I think I pitched my first game since I've been brought up from St. Paul in AAA. And I pitched against the Braves in Milwaukee. And I shot them out. And I pitched against Swanee. And the next day I was out shagging flies. And all of a sudden I saw a Brave uniform coming out towards him. I didn't know what it was until I saw that it was a little bow-legged Lauren was coming that way. And he came over to me and he says, "Will you do me a favor?" I said, "No." He said, "Show me how you throw a curve." Wow, that's pretty good, huh? When you get a guy who won 350 games like that, who would come up and ask. But that's what it was all about. We didn't have pitching coaches. There was no, you had a catcher for a pitching coach. No, they're good putting the signs down and all this stuff. They're good. When they understand you, you can make love with the catcher, really, because it's that easy. When the guy knows you and everything else. But you're the guy. It's not the catcher. You're the guy. You're the guy that makes the decision. You're the one that throws the pitch. You're the one who do this way, and you go this way, any way that you want. But I don't know. It's just such a game. It's just hard to really put it out to people. Learning to pitch is one of the greatest things. You know what you can do when you're pitching? You can make that crowd do anything you want. They'll boo you anytime they want, and they'll cheer you. All you got to do is start throwing it first a couple of times, and you know darn well, if you're in somebody else's ballpark especially, they're really going to match. But I'll just name the fellows that I played with. Campanella, Hall of Fame. Duke Snyder, Hall of Fame. Jackie Robinson, Hall of Fame. Pee Wee Reese, Hall of Fame. We have Don Newcomb, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. I can't believe it. We have Carl Ferrillo. He's not in the Hall of Fame, and I can't believe it. And my God, if that isn't a great team, I don't know what could be a better team. And who do we play? We played the Yankees. And never, I'm not a Yankee hater. I just don't like anything that has stripes on it. No, please. I think this is one of the greatest things happening is now the Red Sox playing the Yankees, honestly. I think that's great. Win, lose, or draw, it's great. And what you saw last night, to me, everybody would have turned off their TV on most clubs. They didn't turn them off on the Red Sox. Okay, they didn't win. But by God, they bounced. And I love a team that bounces. And, you know, they're idiots. A lot of them. Oh, they Clem. I don't Clem, honestly. No, but listen, Red Sox, I live in Red Sox land. And the nation is right where I am. And I want to tell you one thing, don't you dare say anything bad about the Red Sox. But, you know, I'd be in 5 or 6 World Series, as I said, not come home, be at the post office picking up mail, and a fella come up to me and say, hey, what'd you do all summer? That's Rhode Island. And you know, there's a lot of other things in Rhode Island. Listen, before I keep going on, I know that there's a date here for everybody. And if you have any questions, I'd be very happy if I can answer them. Yes?
I think I asked you this earlier. There was an article about they were comparing the 2004 Red Sox with the 1955 Dodgers. Do you see any similarities between those two teams?
Yeah, I would say so. But, you know, that's really hard. They're different clubs in some respects. And I like the fact that they're a team. And I think we were a team. And I think that's when you start, you know, you watch the Yankees, they've come into being a team much more now, just recently, than they were before. And they're much tougher now than they were before, I'll tell you that. And that was always amazing to me because when you put guys together who make a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money as they do, it's very easy to have a little jealousy. But I'll tell you, when you see Sheffield with that damn bat, you better be a good pitcher. That's all I can tell you, because he's there to get you, and he's going to get you. Now I got the little Japanese. My God, you throw the best pitch there is, and he can hit it. So what are you going to say about these guys? They are good. But so are the Red Sox. And so the game goes on. Yes?
One of the things that's bothered me for years is why manager Dressen in 51 didn't use you more down the stretch. And I wanted to ask you, what was going on there? Because ultimately, of course, you came back and pitched a complete game shutout in the playoffs against the Giants. I think it was 10-0 or something like that. And of course, the next day was the Bobby Thompson thing. But, you know, what was the deal there? Were you and he on the outs, or what was?
Well, we were on the outs. I guarantee you were on the outs. I'll tell you what happened. I had pitched 4 complete games.
Yeah.
Only allowed 2 runs in 4 games. And we came in, we had played a doubleheader, and we had to travel all night. And then our train got held up, and we didn't get there until nighttime. We were supposed to be there before noon. And none of us really got any sleep one way or the other. And we got out there to play. And I was the pitcher at that time. Well, first thing that happened, no excuse. I was hanging my curveball. And I'd been a relief pitcher as well as a starter in the minor leagues too. So I was quite used to pitching from a stretch. So I always felt that I could get my curveball down much better from a stretch than in a full windup. It was much easier for me to do. So I had the bases loaded. It was Philadelphia that we were playing. And I went into a stretch. And all of a sudden there's a whistle. Charlie whistles. He always whistles. And he comes running out. What are you doing? What are you doing? I said, Charlie, I can't get my curveball over. I think I can get it over better this way. And he says, no, no. You take a full windup. Well, that's pretty brash. He hit that I went into a stretch. Threw a nice high curveball right there. Jones had a grand slam.
Oh, God.
And I went into his house, that little place that he puts everybody in when he used to. I couldn't go to the bullpen. I had to sit next to him. And he didn't let me do a thing. Here I am, seriously. I could do something. I could lose every game, but I could take the game over from Preacher Rowe, who was very tired. Branca was tired. Erskine had a sore arm. My God, what a good chance. Put me in just to take some heat off the guy. And all the players, I can tell you, felt the same way. But this was Charlie. Charlie did his thing. And until we had our final game, he let me pitch in relief in Philadelphia. And I was the most surprised guy in the world when he tapped me on the shoulder and says, "You're starting tomorrow." But that's where I was, Charles. He was a tough manager. He's a good manager. He wasn't a bad manager, but he had an ego. He and what's that guy that used to manage with the Giants? Oh yeah, I know, Big Mouth, the lip. Well, those two guys have egos, and one wanted to always be better than the other. The thing was that Charlie wasn't making as much money in DeRocha. He couldn't buy the nice clothes that DeRocha had. Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
About, egos. What about the egos of pitchers? I'm thinking tonight about Pedro Martinez going up against the Yankees.
Yeah.
Martinez is a great pitcher, but he has not had great success against the Yankees always. And reminiscent of a great pitcher that you pitched with a teammate, Don Newcomb, always had trouble against the Yankees.
And the Giants.
To what degree does that settle into your psyche? You know, when you go out to the mound, do you think that really affected after a while? Would that affect Don Newcomb? I just can't beat these guys.
It can happen. I suppose I can't
you ever-
live in
did
his
you ever
head.
feel
You know
that way?
that, but I know one thing. You cannot walk out to the mound and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, this guy is up." No, your attitude has to be, "How dare you be up there?" Now that sounds like very crass, but that's the truth. And if you can't pat, if you're not going to throw inside, get out of the game. Because you can't play this game without throwing inside. And that goes for left-handers or right-handers. You have to do it. And this thing that they have, my God, you get this close and, you know, they think you're trying to kill them. And, you know, it's very hard to hit somebody in the head. If you think it's easy, it is not, honestly. But for us, I guess, I don't know, we threw in the 90s, but we didn't throw as hard as most of these guys. Newcomb did probably, but the rest of us would be rather, you know, take us in the high 80s or the low 90s, which would be about what we had. But egos, that's a lack of ego, I think, sometimes when we talk about that. I can't say too much about Pedro. I don't like his actions. I never did, but a pitcher, boy, he's a pitcher. He knows what he's doing. He probably, what's happened to him the last few games that this year, his change of pace, which was always his great out pitch. Nobody ever realized, but that's his great out pitch. It's that little thing that goes there and it goes down a little bit. He cuts on it, it just goes down. My God, that's the best I've ever seen. And he had a fastball 95, 96 sometimes. Little guy, some pitcher. I'll forgive him a lot of the things that he did, as I'm sure his teammates do it. And if he wins tonight, they really will. Yes, I'm sorry, I can't see you.
I grew up in the 50s and loving the Dodgers that you played for.
Thank you.
Best team I've ever seen. But we all know the names, Campanella, Robinson, Reese, the whole works. Talk a little bit about the people that maybe we don't know too much about, like Philly Lowes, like Carl Spooner, and even a young Sandy Koufax, if you will.
Oh, God, yes. Well, Sandy, I don't ever have to say anything about him.
A young one.
Yeah. Well, that's a good story there. Well, we always used to, we'd start our training at Vero Beach, and then we would go to Miami because we didn't have a field at that time in Vero Beach. So Roy Campanella had been down there, and I think we had gotten Sandy on a, yeah, he was going to have to stay because he had over $25,000 bonus. He had to stay at the Major League Club, which meant he was going to be with us. So we were all back there, and he had gone down. Evidently, he had been catching with Sandy. But he came back and he says, guys, we got a pitcher you can't believe. He says, if this guy can ever hit my mitt instead of the backstop, he's going to be the greatest pitcher in the world. But Sandy was, he really had it. He had all of it that it takes. He had, they're few and far between when you get Sandy's. Yes?
You spoke about, just an add-on to his question, you talked about being in the doghouse. Was Sandy Koufax in the Walt Alston's doghouse in his early years, and is that why he pitched so infrequently?
No, I just think it's because he was wild, more than anything else, because he was wild. And
Well, when he two-hits teams,
yeah,
want
well,
to march him out again, see if he'll do it again? He was doing that.
well, and as far as managers are concerned, I can't be in their head. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that. I'm sorry, Billy Lowe's again. Now, there's a case. No, there's a great pitcher. He had emotion. He'd fool you so much. Looked like he wasn't throwing hard and the ball would be on top of you before you even thought he'd thrown it. Had a great curveball and everything else, but he had one thing. If I win 12 games, that's what I was paid for. I'm not going to go for 20. Pay me for 20 games and I'll go for 20. I quit. Buzzy Bavasi was our general manager, go crazy with this man. But he was a really good pitcher. We were talking about, you gave me one more name too.
Carl Spoon.
Oh, God.
His first
Carl was not a Sandy Koufax, but in the same realm as far as becoming a superstar. He had a ball so hard to catch. All I can remember is Campy saying, my God. And you look at his hand was puffed up about this big because his ball was so heavy. His ball was sinking all the time. And he had a great curveball. And we played, all I can remember is playing the Giants. And we played the Giants, and he struck out 15. That was his first outing. And then they came, they came to our ballpark, and he struck out 13. And there was a guy named Dusty Rhodes. And Dusty Rhodes said to Leo, let me hit against this guy. Let me show you how you can hit this guy. He went up there, and he threw him one fastball, two fastballs, three fastballs, and goodbye. And the story is that I hear from Alvin Dark. He said that came back and he says, this kid's a pretty good pitcher. So I think that's enough. Now, we had so many wonderful pitchers. My God, pitchers that didn't get the recognition they should have had. Bud Potvina was a great pitcher. Erskine's a great pitcher. I don't know. They were just great teams to be on. Yes.
Who's the toughest batters you ever faced?
Oh, that's easy for me. Hank Aaron.
Hank Aaron?
Hank Aaron, yeah. Because Hank Aaron is the type of hitter with power who never commits himself. He could hit a changeup as good as anyone I've ever seen. Why? Because he didn't commit himself to his front foot. And when you can do that, and he had such great wrists, he could snap that bat. But he hit his home runs to right center. So that shows he waited on the ball a great deal. And I'm telling you, I didn't like him coming to the plate. I really did.
How do you have such success with Stan Musial? I read that he went 0 for 49.
That's his fault, not mine. he hit us. He hit us so well. You can't believe it. Why I had the success, I think a lot because he tried to go against me with my ball going down all the time. He tried to hit me left field because I certainly was not a 95-mile-an-hour pitcher. But I did throw balls that moved all the time. And he'd hit me ground balls. I had times I'd throw him high curveball, he'd hit me a ground ball. I don't know why he did it, but he did. And I never knew, seriously, I never knew I got him out that many times. Because I didn't feel that way. Erskine will tell you, he knows how many times he didn't. Because he used Erskine like he couldn't believe it. Yes?
The 55 team was, of course, the World Champs. Do you consider them the best of the Dodger teams, or some earlier in the decade?
1953.
53.
Yeah, it wasn't for me, we'd have won the World Series. I lost 2 games in the World Series. No, I tell you truthfully, that was as good a team with Billy Cox at third. Oh, that was such a great team. Hey, I've kept you here a long time. Clock is there. No, it's okay. I'll stay, but...
wondered if you'd comment on playing in New York, where you had the Giants, the Yankees, and the Dodgers. And I remember hearing Vince Scully refer to, I guess it was 55, but he said they left Manhattan, and they were talking football. They got across to Brooklyn, and it was body drop.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. You know, television was just coming in there, and you could watch another game when you were there. Giants would be playing somebody else, you might be able to watch them. They'd be playing in the afternoon, we'd be playing at night. The Brooklyn fans were something out of this world. They are, you know, it's the only place, and it's so true, honestly, you could walk down the street and you could listen to the game because all the radios were on. And on a hot summer day, all the windows are open or they're out in the fire escapes or someplace. And it was a close, very close ballpark and close to the fans. And that's one of the big, it wasn't always a good thing, but I mean, most of the time it was. But they were good fans, they truly would. They'd give you a little, you know, boo-boo or something else like that every once in a while, but they'll always come back to you. Hey, they loved Duke Snider like you couldn't believe, and he used to get on them like you couldn't believe. But he always knew they'd come back to him. Yes?
In 55, when you were with the Dodgers, you beat the Yankees. 60, you were with the Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the good fortune of beating the Yankees again. Talk about the 60s team.
I'm sorry?
Talk about the 60s Pirates team.
Well, they were a club I consider a little bit like the Dodgers. They were a good team club. With a lot of people were a little eccentric, really. Like we had a first baseman, you know, that they called Iron Hands. Dick Stewart. Oh no, Rocky Nelson was good first baseman, very good first baseman. But Stewart could hit the ball a mile and a great swing. We just had a good ball club. We had a good pitching staff, Bob Friend, and well, we had Face in relief. My God, he was a great relief pitcher. It was destined to win. I don't know why. There were so many runs scored in those games, I can't remember. I let enough of them through, so I can tell you that. But when he hit that home run, that town just went crazy. I thought there was something in when we were in Brooklyn, but in Pittsburgh, it just went out of all sorts, and it wasn't rioting. No one rioted. It was just the fact of these people having fun and celebrating what the heck went on.
How'd you do against Mick?
Very well.
You get
Mick, no, I could get Mick pretty well because he didn't like the ball breaking in on him, especially low. Don't get it up. But hey, he's always a threat, one way or the other. I don't get Mickey Mantle. But I'd rather pitch against hard swingers any day of my life than pitch against guys who poke the ball and do everything else. Those are the guys you can't get out. Because they time the ball, they watch the ball, and they know what they're doing. But hard swingers generally get their head off the ball every once in a while.
How was it pitching against Yogi?
He's tough. Don't waste any pitches on him. He hits the waste pitch. I'll tell you what I don't like today. I don't like today what I see so many times. Saw it the other night. When Mancini was pitching so well. He had 2 strikes on somebody, came over the plate with a pitch. Oh, that's a sin. That's a cardinal sin. Well, the other one is walk a pitcher. That's really bad. That's one of the worst. Anyhow, okay.
Just out of curiosity's sake, did Richard grow a spinner?
Preacher was as clever as anybody I've ever seen. And yeah, I'm sure he admitted that he did. But he had such a way of getting at it that you couldn't pick it up. And this was his little thing. Always went to his hat. Always went to his hat. But when he would put his hat, he would spit right here. And when you did that, then he'd go here. Now he's got it on his fingers. Once you got it on the fingers, that's when it's going to come. And he was good at it. What did he have, 23 and 3? 22 and 3. It's a pretty good record for him. I'd like to have had one of those. You didn't even answer your question.
Yeah.
You didn't have any. It's okay.
Well, actually, somebody took mine.
What?
Somebody took mine already.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes,
Clem, how much of a leader was P.B. Reese in the dugout? And
very much.
Relate your favorite story, maybe?
But not to a point where you think he's there much in your business all the time. Not Pee-wee. Pee-wee just was, it could calm everybody down. He had a good way of doing it, and the fact is everybody liked him. And you know, when everybody likes you, it's kind of easy really to. We had him, and then we had Gail Hodges. So you had the one who talked you out of it, and the other one to make sure. And he got you out of it. And we had some, we forgot Don Drysdale. There was a hell of a pitcher too. And Don loved to do things too. He had to use Vaseline. Just a little bit. Yeah, it's amazing what you do with your belt. It's on your belt, a little bit underneath. All you need is a little bit of it. And as hard as he threw, be careful. Because that ball come in and sink like you couldn't believe.
Pitching inside seemed to be much more in a pitcher's repertoire in the 50s especially, and even beyond that. It's reached the point now where you throw inside to a guy, he's ready to charge the mound. Doesn't that strike you as...
Well, yes, it does.
Yeah.
Very, very much so. One thing, to explain one thing, you cannot be in a ball club and have someone else hit your players and not do something about it. I know that sounds silly, but doing something about it is not hitting somebody in the head. There's nothing whatsoever to do with that. And if you're going to be a head hunter, get the hell out of the game because you don't belong there. And there haven't been too many of them. I hit Joe Adcock in the head one day, and believe me, I was only pitching him inside. Now, Joe always stepped in the bucket, but he'd been on a tear. He had hit 4 home runs the day before, and he opened the day with a double that day. So he was always bending over for my curveball because he couldn't cover the outside of the plate. And I said, I'm going to go inside. And just when I went inside, he went up thinking he was going to get the, well, I hit him right there. And, you know, these are the days when we didn't have the big helmets. We just had the little plate that they had there. I went in and see him after and to apologize for the fact that I didn't do it. First thing he said to me, says, kid, you don't throw hard enough. You're going to hurt me. You don't know how big this man was. This is a big man, 6'4", 6'5", about 230. Imagine he came running out. Where was I going to go? No, it was different. Charging the mound was not too often.
It seems to me that they've taken away some of the natural tension of the game. The batter digs in, he tries to carve out his space, as Adcock was against you. And as a pitcher, there's a tension, you want to back him away. And I think that, I don't know, it's reached a point now where they're so, they try to regulate that so much, they've taken away some of the competitive nature that's natural to the game.
Well, you know, during my day, a leadoff hitter never hit home runs to opposite field. Was unheard of. He was a fast runner and all that. But the ball's different. There's hardly a doubt about that. The ball has to be a little different. And it's the fact that, God, well, let's take the Red Sox leadoff man. He probably had a year that anybody, a third place hitter would like to have. And he's had one heck of a year, I would say that. And I like him. But have you ever seen anybody strike out so much? Number 2 hitter, ever seen anybody strike out more than that? It's amazing, and yet they hit the ball. You can't say they don't. But I don't know. The game is just different. It's a different game. They're bigger. We won't say they're not better. They're better. I think we could adjust. I think anybody can adjust at certain times. You might have to become a knuckleball. You know, that's the worst thing that ever happened. It truly is. That is so scary. You throw that ball up there 45 miles an hour, guy centers up on you. First thing you know, you're on the back of the mountain instead of in front of him. Okay, okay. No, if you have a question, it's fine.
Was he the only guy that you had ever hit in the head, or
yes.
you hit anybody else?
No, I wouldn't do it. I'm serious. I would never try intentionally. Yeah.
Anybody hit you intentionally, you think?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
Who'd you hit your home runs
Well,
off?
I hit a home run off one day, and his name was Jackson. He was a pitcher. Yeah. And he picked me off in, let's see, in St. Louis. He got me in St. Louis. And he broke my wrist. And I never said one word to him, or he never said a word to me either. But next time I saw him, I got him. No, it's only fair. Because I hit a home run off him, he's going to get me in a different game? No. So that's all that was. That's personal. Okay, 8:19, the game starts. You still didn't get your question, did you?
I just.
You got it? You
Yeah.
sure? Okay.
Yeah, that was the one that I had.
Listen, thanks again. Thank you.
Thank you, Clem. Hey, before everybody leaves, I'm not sure if, don't come up just yet. If everybody got the autographs that they were trying to get, I know we cut it off a little short out there early. If there's a need to get some last minute autographs, fine. But then Harvey has got some of the raffle tickets over here. And if anybody is willing to, come up and take a couple